Morning, Pat.
Morning.
Okay, I think we are about to start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mauricio Ruiz. I am the Partner Programs Development Specialist for BCMPHA, and I will be your moderator today. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Everything You Need to Know About Tenant Insurance. This is going to be facilitated by Marsh and New Chelsea. And this webinar is presented by BCMPHA in partnership with Marsh Intact. We would like to acknowledge that this webinar is being delivered from various locations on the unceded traditional territories of the unceded Coast Salish territory of the Lekwungen, Songhees, and Swanek nations. We acknowledge that many of you are currently located in the ancestral homelands of indigenous peoples across the province, each with their own unique traditions and history. Before we begin, I will give you a brief outline of the format. The presentation will be approximately 90 minutes, followed by a break period of an open question and an answer period. Our goal is to finish up by 12 p.m. At any point during the session, please feel free to type in your questions at any time by using the chat feature. We will tend to do our best to address all questions during the open Q&A segments. Also, this webinar is being recorded and the audience will be muted, which means that you can hear us, but we won't be able to hear you. Again, please type in your questions using the chat feature. A recording of this webinar will be sent out within a day or so, and you will be able to access the PowerPoint there, so you don't have to worry if you miss something today. At the end of the session, I will send out a quick evaluation survey to everyone, and we would appreciate you taking a minute or so to complete it. Before we start, I would like to extend a big thank you to our BCMPHA education partners whose support has enabled online professional development opportunities for the community housing sector. And just mark your calendars. The Housing Central Conference for this year will be held on November 15 through Wednesday, November the 17th. And you will be hearing from us pretty soon with more information related to the conference. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. Krista Gires, Senior Relationship Officer at Marsh, Pat Buchanan, CEO at New Chelsea Society, and Scott Stewart, Director of Operations at New Chelsea. Back to you, Krista.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mauricio. So you can just move ahead onto slide 1 there. So as Mauricio said, my name is Krista and I'm with Marsh Canada. So as a member of BC Not-for-Profit Housing, your residents do have an option to purchase a tenants policy through the BC Not-for-Profit Program, which is administered by Marsh Canada. If you're not sure who Marsh Canada is, we are an insurance broker, so we're not the insurance company. We do work with Intact Insurance Company, and we started working with Intact in 2012 to provide all BC Not-for-Profit members with this program. Intact is the underwriter, so they're the ones that are going to be issuing the policies, and they're the ones that will take care of the claims in the event that one does happen. So members will receive a tenants policy for as little as $12.50 a month or $150 a year. So it's quite good pricing for a tenants policy. And we currently work with 28 members of BC Not-for-Profit to offer this program, and this continuously is growing as more people become aware of the program. So New Chelsea Society was one of the first members to actually join the program. So that was in 2012. So New Chelsea's here today to, like Scott and Pat are here to talk about how the tenants program has helped them, as well as how it has helped their residents. So I'm going to be passing it over to Pat now.
Well, thank you very much, Krista, and good morning, everybody. It's just great to be here with you this morning and to be co-presenting along with Krista, our partner at Marsh. So just very briefly tell you about New Chelsea Society. We're a nonprofit housing provider and a registered charity founded back in 1952 by 5 Vancouver branches of the Royal Canadian Legion to provide safe, affordable housing for World War II veterans and their spouses. So today, the Society operates 20 property locations in 5 Lower Mainland municipalities at Vancouver, Burnaby, North Vancouver, Port Coquitlam, and Surrey. We have approximately 3,000 low to moderate income seniors and families. Persons with disabilities live in our 1,432 affordable housing units, and they range from studio apartments to low-rise, high-rise buildings to 5-bedroom townhouses. We have a total of 55 staff. The Society is currently building our 21st housing project, 102 new affordable rental units for seniors, adults, and families on Southwest Marine Drive in Vancouver. And that'll be opening in July of 2022, and that'll take us up to 1,534 homes. So in 2022, we'll be proudly celebrating our 70th anniversary as a nonprofit housing provider. So that's New Chelsea. Next slide, please. So our involvement in the program, the first dedicated tenants insurance policy for New Chelsea, as Krista mentioned, was written in January of 2012. And approximately 136 of our tenants currently have insurance policies. So that's just under 10% of our population. And we're certainly looking to increase that number. So in this webinar, we want to tell you about the Tenants Insurance Program, why it's so important, why our residents should, and your residents should participate. We'll talk about why New Chelsea endorses the program and what we like about it. We'll share some of our actual experiences with the program in terms of case studies, and finally, how we promote and administer the program with our residents. So now I'd like to turn things back over to Krista to talk about why the program is important and what it has to offer.
Thanks, Pat. So why tenants insurance is important? It's important for many reasons. Not only does it protect your residents' personal belongings, but it also protects your building in the event that there is a loss. So we're going to do a poll here. If Tan, you could bring that up. So who on the call today has experienced damage to their building caused by a resident who did not have insurance? I'm very curious to see how many people have experienced this, because, you know, when there is insurance in place, I believe you're going to be a lot happier than if there's not. It's going to be definitely a little bit more stressful for you as a not-profit business. Just give it a few more minutes. Okay, so yes, I figured it was probably going to be yes. When a resident is responsible for the damages and they don't have insurance, you know, you're going to have to be dealing with your insurance company, and it's going to be it's going to affect your insurance premiums on your commercial insurance, and yeah, it's going to be a lot more work for you, right? So, and when a tenant causes damage to the building and has the insurance policy in place, the tenant's liability insurance would step in, and the commercial insurance would be able to subrogate or recover the losses. So in this situation, most people are saying that, yes, they've had losses. So I'm sure that the ones that haven't had a policy in place, you know, you're going to be a lot happier when there is one in place. So next slide, please. So why your resident should buy tenants insurance. So tenants coverage provides contents, liability, and what we call additional living expenses. So for your contents, it would cover loss or damage to your residence contents caused by a number of different insured events, like whether it's fire, water, theft, vandalism, smoke damage as well. And with tenants liability insurance, I've got this circled here. It's going to provide you, again, protection in the event that your resident causes damage to your building. So this one is important as a building owner and a nonprofit business. So that's why I've circled the liability. And I'm sure that's what you really want to see, is having your residents who have liability insurance in the fact that if they do cause damage to your building. And then when a resident is unable to live in their home, they would have coverage for additional living expenses if they have to go live in a hotel, or if they have to eat in a restaurant, or if they have to actually have their belongings that haven't been damaged moved to another location. So next slide, please. So I'm just going to do a recap on the tenants insurance program coverages. So I mentioned the contents insurance as part of this program. So your residents will receive $15,000 in coverage, and they would have a $500 deductible for their personal contents. For their personal liability, the Marsh program provides $1 million in liability coverage. So, you know, if there is a total loss to a building and it was caused by your resident, the $1 million would be there to protect them as for their liability. And then the additional living expenses, residents will receive $6,000 in the event that they are unable to live in their home. So this actually did increase in 2019. It used to be $3,000. So it's a little bit more. When a loss happens, your resident would speak to one of our claims adjusters at Intact, and they would be able to provide direction on, you know, where to go and the limits and all of that. So I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to recap that the premium is $150 a year or $12.50 a month. And that's just for the program coverages that I've just explained, but higher limits are available if one of your residents wants $30,000 or $40,000 in coverage for their contents. They can speak with Marsh and we can provide them with that, but it is outside of the program pricing. So I just thought it was important to mention that. So I guess we're going to do a poll here. So I am just curious to see who is currently taking advantage of the Marsh program right now. Currently, we actually have, I had mentioned 28 members from BC Not-for-Profit that is participating in the program. And we actually have about 1,600 insurance policies with your residents. So I'm very interested to see how many people on the call today are working with Marsh already or not. And you're here to learn more about that. Okay, so that's great that some people on the call today are promoting the program to members, and thanks to the ones that haven't been promoting and are here today to learn more about our program here. Thanks so much. And next slide, please. And I just wanted to also mention some additional features of the Marsh program. So everything is on replacement cost for your residents' contents. Earthquake coverage, which is very important in BC. It's also optional for your residents. So it would be an additional $25. So total of $175 with earthquake for residents. And an important thing is there's no service fees for monthly payments of $12.50. Many companies will actually charge 3% on the premium. So this is saving your residents some money. And in the case that they do decide to move forward with the Marsh and Intact program, they would have free access to Intact Assist. So it's a suite of services that are used almost like on an emergency basis. things like babysitting, legal care, house cleaning, if there's something that happens and they need help. So all of that comes with the policy. And they also have access to Intact's 24 hours claim service. So that's the program, I guess, details. So I don't know if there's any questions right now on the line. I don't know, Mauricio, if we've had any questions or if anybody has any questions about some of the information I've advised on the actual program itself.
We don't have any questions at this point. If you have any question, please type on the chat and send us the question and we will be able to answer. If not right now. Oh, we have one question from Don.
Okay.
Are prices cheaper for higher coverage?
Prices would not be cheaper for higher coverage. It wouldn't most likely be more. So because this is a program, Intact has provided the pricing of $150 a year or $175. And, you know, this is quite affordable compared to some tenants policies. So if a resident wanted, I'm just going to really example here. So if they wanted, let's say 50,000 in contents coverage, you know, they could maybe be looking at something like $350, $400 a year. So, and the one thing with, if they do want more coverage, then we would have to rate them. Intact would have to rate them individually. Right now, because it's a program, they don't like pull the claims details of prior insurance policies.
We have another question here.
Okay.
From Tina. Can nonprofits not associated with busy housing access Marsh? Did
Sorry,
you want to answer or you want me to answer that question, Krista?
Yeah, sorry. Are you able to answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
For non-members, in order to have access to the benefits of the programs, they need to become members of BCMPHA. That's part of the benefits of the membership. I can send you some information related to the membership and the contact to the person that can answer all your questions related to that. We have another question from Louis. How does it get, oh, sorry, I'm missing another one. Sorry, they came too fast.
Yeah.
What is the cost to lower the deductible? Many of our clients could not afford the 500 deductible. Cheryl.
So unfortunately, because this is a program, it's very box business. So basically, the 500 could not be adjusted to get a lower deductible. It comes with the program. So it's 15,000 in coverage with 500 deductible. So in the event that there is a loss, the 500 deductible would be deducted. And I don't see a lot of deductibles that are under 500. I know some companies may offer 250, and in the past you might have seen like $100 deductible. 500 is like the average.
And we have another one from Louis. How does it get administered to tenants? Individual policy, or does organization purchase a fixed lot of policies for the group of tenants?
Okay, so great question. So I should have mentioned this actually. So this is a voluntary program. So in a few slides, we're going to kind of give you some information on how you can promote it to your residents. It is all individual based, and the society will basically, you know, we don't want you to basically do much work with it. So it's unfortunately, you can't purchase like a fixed amount of policies. I know that that's been asked by many societies in the past because it's important. You want your tenants to have insurance, but unfortunately we can't do it that way. It all is on individual policy basis, but with the program pricing.
And that was the last question for now, Krista.
Okay, great. Thanks for the great question. So if you think of anything else throughout the presentation, just let us know on the coverages. So over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Krista. Boy, you're a hard act to follow, let me tell you. So why do we, Chelsea, endorse this program? And quite simply, there's two real main reasons why we endorse this: affordability and protection. So when it comes to affordability, when you're on a limited income and there's low monthly payments available, this is a great option. I mean, I'm Scottish and I have insurance, and I looked for the lowest possible rate that I could for my modest home apartment, and honestly, we were in the $700-800 range. So when you look at the $150, this is great value for a tenant to have, and the protection it provides. It provides not only protection for the tenant, but it provides some peace of mind and protection for the landlord as well, the housing provider. So these are two very compelling reasons why it's good to endorse this program. So next slide, please. The features that we like about the Marsh program: private arrangement between tenant and Marsh. The society is not involved in administering or overseeing these policies, because really our role is to advertise and promote the benefits of this program, not only to our current tenants, but to the tenants that we're going to be receiving down the road. So really, from our perspective and point of view, it's really important to be at arm's length from this process as a housing provider. We are social housing and we care, and we're housing with heart, but we like to believe in the right for people to be independent and be able to manage their own affairs. This being said, we don't set the policies. We don't set the terms. And so this is important for a tenant to deal directly with an agent when it comes to an event. I really want to stress this here, that we are not agents and thusly cannot be providing advice to a tenant on these policies. It's very much like us, if you're going to court, we can't represent you in court because we're not lawyers. And it's the same thing here. We're not brokers, we're not agents. We leave that to the professionals and let them take care of the business at hand. Specifically, when you have an event, it is a stressful time and you do not want to have any miscommunications whatsoever. So going straight to an agent and asking the questions you need to ask is really important. So we like to be arm's length, and there's a very good reason for that, and let the professionals do their job. So next slide, please. So the tenants, from the tenant's point of view, peace of mind. And no one can predict the future on what's going to be happening. I don't know if you remember David Letterman, a late night talk show. The answer is we can't do that. I can't look into the crystal ball. I can't see what's coming down the road. Things happen. There are three absolutes in life: death, taxes, and your mechanicals are going to fail. And this is what happens. And we have an event. The value for dollar for dollar with this program, when you really take a look at this and think about what costs are, not only what it costs to remediate when an event takes place, but the actual cost of the program itself. It's fantastic value. You cannot beat this at all. And I really, really recommend and strongly suggest that everyone really do take a look at this. Very, very important to stress this to our tenants. And value. It's a valuable investment towards the safety and security of your home. And as a tenant and being responsible tenants, we can stress this and sort of bring this to the light that this provides that peace of mind and protects that which you have in your home. And I don't know about any of you, but I'm a pack rat. I got tons of stuff in my home that I really don't need. But if I added up the value of all of that, I'd be hard pressed to replace that in the event of an event. I mean, nobody's going to miss my baseball card collection, but whatever is important to you is important to protect. So something to think about when it comes time to talking to your tenants and saying, hey, what's important to you? And think about taking care of that. Krista, back to you.
All right. So,
Hi, Krista. Before I move to the next slide,
yeah, for
we
sure.
have a question that I believe it's for you from Don.
Okay.
So no one would be denied this coverage.
No, nobody would be denied. I know that if there's non-payment, that is one that like if somebody was to set up a policy and they've had like previous I guess non-payments for insurance, that might be an issue. And if they do set it up and there is non-payment, it would be canceled. But besides like anybody being accepted and paying the premium, nobody would be denied. All right, so claims reporting. So, you know, when something happens, like insurance is claims. So that's why you put, you know, your insurance policy in place. So in the event that there is a claim, as Scott mentioned earlier, you know, society should not be administering any claims advice or anything. So we're not here to talk about that today, but I just wanted to mention that when it comes to reporting claims, your resident would have to report the claim. So it would not be on the society. Societies cannot call Marsh and say that one of their residents had a claim. So I just wanted to make sure that that's an important fact, because we do get that a lot, where somebody calls us and says, oh, my resident had a claim. And it's like, well, your resident, which we would call a policyholder, needs to report it. So they can call Marsh directly Monday to Friday to report losses, but Intact is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they can report claims. And, you know, claims are very specific, and, you know, every claim is different. So there may be some claims questions that might be coming in right now in the chat box about claims. So if you do have any questions specifically for me on claims, you can reach out directly and we can put my email into the chat box. So I just wanted to mention that. One great feature that Intact does offer, they offer what's called their 30-minute claims guarantee. So if one of your residents calls, reports the claim, and then the claim is not started within 30 minutes, then Intact will give back the premium to your resident. I have yet to see this actually be used, but it's a great feature. So yeah, so again, like I mentioned, if there's any specific questions on claims, you can put them in the chat box and then I can get back to you on them. And over to you, Scott.
And there we go. We're ham and egging it. Thanks, Krista.
Oh, it looks like we've got a question here.
Okay.
I'm just reading. So what do you consider emergency? Sorry, I just disappeared there. So
what do you consider emergency support, temporary housing, etc.?
So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, when a resident does have a policy set up, they have the option, well, one of the coverages is additional living expenses. So that's $6,000. So, you know, that can be eaten up pretty quickly if you're going and staying in a hotel, and depending on how long it's going to take to, you know, get their unit back to what it was prior to the loss. So emergency support, they call Intact, and Intact they'll give them guidance as to where they can go, what hotels are available, you know, what their limits are and everything. So that would be the temporary housing. And I do know that some societies might have an extra unit. So I don't know if that could also be a temporary fix for a night or two. But yeah, the coverage would be additional living expenses up to $6,000. Hope that answered your question. Over to you, Scott.
There we go. Thank you, Krista. So before I get into some case studies, I just wanted to have a little chat with you about dockets. Now, while Krista had mentioned, you know, some information about insurance before, but this is about some due diligence on the housing provider side. And while this isn't necessary for anyone to do, this is something that I do whenever an event takes place. It is a resource tool only for property managers. You could use this, site managers. And honestly, even if you're a tenant, why not? If you can put all the information in one spot that you need, why not? And this is the purpose of this. So let me go down this for you. So I usually will start it off with the docket when it was started. The DOL, which is an insurance term, you're going to hear a lot. Date of loss, you're going to need to know that. Tenant name, tenant address, units affected. One of the important things you're going to want to do is you're going to need to let your insurer know there may be a potential claim, or there is a claim, or there's a potential claim. Insurers really do not like surprises, and they really want to know in advance what's happening, what's going on. So I usually will write this, I will send an email and I will write down the date and time of when I sent that. You're going to want to put the restoration company name in here, their name and number. You're going to want their contact info. You're going to need the insurance agent's name and number. Any claim numbers that you get from Marsh or from any other adjuster that's assigned to you, you're going to want this. And one of the most important down here, we get busy. We all get busy and we forget things. We want to know if this is a recoverable from the tenant or not. And if so, what was that word?
Subrogation.
Subrogate, that's
Yes.
what it was. So landlords do need to subrogate sometimes as well, and we'll need to go back on the tenant. So we need to remind ourselves of this. And so I usually check this off and we'll make a reminder. And thusly, I'll then put it in my calendar to diarize that. But this is a tool and it's something you may wish to use. You don't need to. But if you do, it's something that would be very, very helpful down the road. Next slide, please.
We have one question here.
Oh, you have a question. Great.
Are wildfires and flooding, for example, creeks overflowing, covered under this policy?
So yes, if there is a fire and there is flooding, then the residents' contents would be covered.
That also applies for wildfires, right?
Yes, so fires, yes, 100%.
We have another question. I believe this one is for Scott. What is our CORI?
That's a really good question. A CORI is our tenant-based computer system where we record all our tenant information. It's really quite helpful and quite robust. We record all of our documentation there, our notes, information, flags, files, everything that we need to know about the tenant is recorded in this system. And if anyone has any questions about what a CORI is, or you'd like to learn a little bit more, my contact information will be up a little bit later. And by all means, send us a quick little note and we'd be happy to talk to you about that. Here we go. Case studies. So while we have had, I think Pat mentioned about 10% of our population sign up for the insurance, and that's wonderful, really. We haven't had too many instances where the tenant insurance has kicked in. That's either excellent management on our part, or we've just been lucky, or both. Not sure which way to go on that one, but we do have tenants that have purchased insurance outside of the program as well. And it's important to note because this session is about insurance, and Marsh Insurance is a vehicle, but it isn't the only vehicle that's available. And so I'd like to present to you today 2 case studies. One that relates to a tenant that did not have insurance, and one that relates to a tenant that did have insurance. So next slide, please. In this case study, the tenant had no insurance. And there was a flood event. A toilet overflowed on the 3rd floor of a high rise. And the tenant was desperately trying to get the blockage out and kept flushing the toilet. Thank you for that. We found that the water then, water being water, gravity being gravity, the water found its way down, and it impacted the unit below. And of course, there was some damage below. But what the major damage that took place in our fire panel. And once the water got into that, it knocked it out. And so one of the things I wanted to point out today is a flood event or an event in a unit isn't always contained to that unit. Things can happen and they can go sideways pretty quickly. In this case, it knocked out our fire panel, which has a master and slave, 2 main panels, and then 4 sub panels on a 10-acre property. So this is fairly substantial. There's a lot of components that needed to be changed. So in order to remediate this, we're looking at about $60,000 for the panel. Fire watch, because once your panel is out, and we were on watch for 6 months, came to $32,000. The restoration cost, that seems nominal compared to all of this, was $27,000 to fix the units and the drywall and those parts. Factor that in also with your deductible, because as soon as you hit a fire panel, you know you're going to be over the $50,000 mark. So there it is, another $50,000 added to the bill. And of course, you have professional expenses. You need professionals to come in and take a look at the equipment and see what's wrong and can it be saved. So all told, it was $126,966 for a plugged toilet. I don't know about you, but I do not have $126,966 in my pocket or in the bank or anywhere in the bed. You know, this is what insurance is for. You know, we can't plan for these events, and a flood event may not be contained to your unit. So it's really, 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 really important to stress these advantages of getting insurance for tenants for events like this. So next slide, please. This is a case study in a tenant that had insurance. Again, it was a flood event. It was tenant caused. The tenant had placed something that was inappropriate in the toilet, and water being water, gravity being gravity, it found its way down. As you can see, we had to tear open the ceiling above. We're using moisture meters there, as you can see in one of the slides. 999, that's not a good number. That means there's a lot of water. And you can see there's a picture of a machine there with a number, and I'll be talking about that shortly. In this case, yes, the tenant had insurance. What I wanted to bring to light in this case is that this was a building that was built in the 70s. And as the sector does know, there's quite a few buildings that were built in the 70s because there was a large push to build purpose-built social housing in the 70s. And you're going to find that a lot of these units in these buildings have asbestos. When it came to the remediation of this property, half of the cost was abatement. And this is something we also need to be aware of. Not only is water going to get everywhere and it's going to affect more than the unit itself, the remediation costs are going to skyrocket in the older buildings. In this case, we're looking at $20,000 just to repair both units above and below. It was $20,000 in abatement. It's really, really, really expensive. At the end of the day, the insurance was there, wonderful, but it didn't cover it all. And again, this is where that subrogation comes in, and you need to go back and get the balance from the tenant there. Next slide, please. Sorry, is there any questions that we have?
Yes, Scott, we have one question.
We do, okay.
It's from the last slide.
Yep.
What was the outcome of the fire panel damage? Who paid the $126,000 bill?
That's a great question. It really was a process in this. The ultimate payment, I mean, other than the deductible, which is what a society will pay, they'll pay that deductible. The insurer will cover the costs. Normally what takes place is the society will pay out all costs in advance. In this case study, I negotiated with the insurer to have all of the vendors pay out first. And that, you know, it does a couple things. It's not normal. Maybe I had the gift of gab. Maybe it was a good day. I don't know. But it saves the housing provider with those upfront costs. And of course, yes, we do have an obligation to the final bill of the $50,000, but it really does help out when they can cover the costs ahead of time. But that isn't the normal case. Normally, it is a society that will cover the costs and then recoup those costs less whatever is not covered from the insurer or multiple insurers, because there's generally more than one insurer involved. And I'd like to also add here, it's really important as a housing provider, as your PPM, as your site manager, whomever is actually going to be dealing with the insurers, they are your very, 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 very best friend at this point in time. And it's really important to have a good working relationship with them. It is the difference between some prompt service. You never know. I can speak to this. We actually paid out for some costs, which we shouldn't have done. And having this relationship with the insurer, we were able to get that money back and get it back quite quickly. It's just all about relationships. You know, yes, there's Marsh, but we're not necessarily buying Marsh. We're buying the relationship that we have with the people we work with. So I hope that answered the question. And if it isn't, please just let me know. Claim is the time when you see the value of insurance. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great saying. So thank you for that, Edna. Next slide, please. This is a little something a value add. I wanted to show everyone here what they should be seeing when it comes to getting a report from your service provider. There's a few things I would like to highlight here. Number one, if you can see it at the bottom right of each page, there are 28 pages in this report. 28. Nobody likes writing reports, but 28 pages, that's a lot. So the bulk of it would have been pictures. Pictures. And you want to see that. You want to know what their pictures are, when it was taken, the dates. You also want to know the category of loss on here. And you can see I've got the red arrows here. You're going to want to know the moisture readings. You're going to need to know the atmospheric because it all relates to the drying time and how fast it will or will not dry based on your humidity that you have inside and outside. You're going to need to know the dry standard. And you're definitely going to want to know about the equipment that was installed. And if you remember in the picture just before, there's a picture of a blower with a number. The service provider should be taking pictures of the equipment with the numbers because it all has relevance and bearing to the insurance agent, and it may not mean anything to us. We have no idea what this means, but it absolutely has relevance and bearing to an insurer. So this is what you want to see, and this is what you can ask for from your service provider. So when you do get a chance to have a chat with them, fireside chat and have a coffee, ask them, what's your report look like? What do you provide? It's important. You don't necessarily know this. They don't give you this information when you call them, and you don't think to ask about that, because when you call them, it's an emergency. Take the time, give them a call. So as soon as you get off this webinar, give them a call, see what they say. You'd be surprised that the information that you can get from them. Next slide, please. So I and my counterpart at the time, who actually is on the webinar today, we actually signed up for the Water Restoration Technician course. And this is something I strongly recommend to anyone in the industry, anyone in the housing industry, to take a look at. It might not be for you, but I recommend it. It allows you to understand what takes place when it comes to remediating a property. It's a weird and wonderful world at best. And the more knowledge you have, the more empowered you are in becoming a partner in, in learning about what you can do to help yourself down the road. It doesn't help you in the moment. When it happens. But we learned that we really needed a moisture meter and a really good dehumidifier. At the end of the course, there was an exam, and of course we didn't take it. We don't want to be liable. Let the service providers do that. But it was well worth the money and the time spent on that, and I highly recommend it. I have here listed Psycorp's information, and you can give them a call. They're not actually running the course until next year, but food for thought. I've also got here some of our service providers, but these are only 3 of many who are wonderful, excellent, well-positioned service providers to help you. Reach out to them, have a chat with them. You'd be surprised on what you can learn to help yourselves through the insurance process with them. Krista, that's over to you.
Well, thanks, Scott. So this slide here, it's how to promote the Tenants Insurance Program to your residents, the Marsh Tenants Program. So in the past, you may have reached out the residents for like brochures, and Marsh would have printed them off to you and sent them off. So we have went more digital. So last week, we actually have put all of the marketing material on BC Not-for-Profit's website. So it's all downloadable. Your residents will, or you'll be able to print off posters to put around your building if you want to do that. All of the posters will have a QR code, which would take your residents right to how to enroll, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. There'll also be email templates that you can basically send out emails if you'd like to your residents, depending on if you have an email list, as well as newsletter and social media posts with risk management type of content to try to keep residents engaged in wanting to purchase tenants insurance. So after the session, BC Not-for-Profit will be sending out a follow-up email, and the link to all of this material will be on there. And if Tanya could put the link to where it currently is in the chat box, if you wanted to link to it, you could see basically for yourself, or when the follow-up email comes, it'll have all of the information on there. So is there any questions on promoting the program?
There was one question, I think, for myself.
Okay.
And if I can navigate this, who offers the course? The company's name was Psycorp, and I have listed it on my on that page there, which will be available to you. There's a phone number as well. You can give them a call. They do have a web page. Take a look at it and see. I don't think it's listed there currently, but give them a call. Psycorp is the name.
Perfect. So next slide, please, and I'll be over to Scott.
Actually, I'm going to take this.
Oh, sorry, Pat.
I just want to, I've been sitting here so quietly and patiently feeling left out. No, I just want to give you a quick update on some of the things that we do here at New Chelsea to promote the program. And we start right at the beginning of a tenancy. So brand new tenant comes in and fills out all their paperwork and signs their tenancy agreement. The tenant placement staff member who's working through their tenancy agreement with them would also give them a tenant's insurance policy brochure. And as Krista said, you know, these are all downloadable down. We would print them off. So, you know, we'd give them something, a paper document they could take away and think about. You know, we really do highlight right at the beginning of the tenancy the importance of having personal household insurance and the consequences of not having it. We also, within our tenancy agreement, have a section where the tenant, actually we review it specifically, and then the tenant must initial a little box beside that section acknowledging that they are responsible for any damage they cause and for any damage that is caused to their personal belongings. We try to enforce that whenever we can. So if a tenant does not have insurance and, you know, it cost us a few $1,000s, we'll go back to that tenant. If they didn't have insurance, we'll set up a payment plan, or, you know, try to sort of really, you know, make them take responsibility for the damage that they caused. But it's not always easy, as Scott told you. Sometimes the damage is so huge that the tenant, there's, you know, they're just lost. The other thing we do is for our tenants that are rent geared to income tenants, which I'm sure many of you have, at the annual income verification meeting or rent review that we would do with them, again, the tenant's insurance policy or flyer is given out, and the importance of the program is highlighted. And as Krista mentioned, we do ongoing promotional efforts, posters in our buildings. We have a regular newsletter that goes out, and we you know, put ads in that. If we have a sentinel event where there's been a huge fire, you know, we will actually report on that and talk about, you know, the insurance implications of whether or not insurance was there or not. So, I mean, we try to keep this top of mind with our tenants on a regular basis. So next slide, please. So for the future, we're, you know, now that we're sort of working with Krista, we would want to undertake a more aggressive promotional campaign to try to enroll more tenants in our program, get it up above 10%. So we're looking at some creative things, maybe hosting a membership drive or offering incentive programs like prizes. And I want to give you a few examples. Sometimes when our operations department makes bulk purchases, we get free items. And these items can actually be used as enrollment prizes for an enrollment drive. I'll give you an example. We ordered a quantity of fridges a while back, and we received 10 microwave ovens as a bonus from our supplier. So we then use those microwaves as prizes. The other thing is we've done in the past is we use a RBC, Royal Bank Avion Visa card to pay for a lot of stuff, and that accumulates points. Well, we use those points, we've redeemed them in the past to buy gift cards to like Safeway and London Drugs, or even kitchen appliances like toasters and blenders, that sort of thing. And we use these items as prizes in an enrollment drive. So put it in the newsletter, you know, put a date that those that enroll will be entered into this little contest, and you know, the winner gets some nice stuff. So these are some of the future things we're looking at. We, you know, cannot make this program mandatory, as this people kind of wonder, can you make it a requirement in the tenancy agreement? And we can't do that. It's a voluntary program, and so all we can do is really encourage our tenants to enroll in it. So that's what we're doing, and we're hope to do more in the future. So thank you. Next slide, please.
We have one question here. Is it possible for the landlord to require proof of tenant insurance coverage?
Well, we would probably do that kind of thing every annual review when we meet with the tenant to see if they, you know, if they did get coverage, have they renewed it? Because that's the other thing. We can't really require them to do it. If they have a policy for a year and then just not renew it, we can't control that. So no, we do not look to see actual confirmation that they have insurance. It's up to the tenant. We just promote it, and if they tell us they do, that's great.
All right, so some parting thoughts for everyone here today. Getting the message out to our tenant populations on the benefits of the tenant insurance, it doesn't happen by osmosis. It doesn't even happen by magic. It's work, and it starts with communication. Yeah, indirectly, here at New Chelsea, we promote the program by encouraging a partnership with our tenants, letting them know that they have rights and some responsibilities. Our tenants do have the right to a safe, secure home, but they also have a responsibility to take care of that home that we provide. We're not just a landlord, we're a partner with them. And when you're in a partnership, it's a two-way street. We work together for a common goal, and we each have a role to play in this partnership. The tenant insurance is a great way to cement this partnership because it's really a win-win-win situation for everyone that's involved. Now, getting the message out also means engaging with your tenants as often as you can. Anytime that we have a chance to have a captive audience and be able to speak with them about tenant insurance, this is something that we should be doing, like during the rent reviews, as Pat was mentioned, possibly even during our suite inspections. This is a great time and opportunity to be able to put a bug in their ear. Hey, what about tenant insurance? Obviously they become a little ear blind to hearing that all the time. Do you want insurance? Do you want insurance? Do you want insurance? So sometimes you got to jazz it up. Sometimes you got to have some fun with it, but really engage with them and remind them, because they forget about it. You hear about it when you sign up your tenancy, but after that, it just becomes a ghost in the night. Getting the message out also means being innovative. I know each of you know your business is best, but I encourage you to think about all those times that you engage with your tenants and how you engage with your tenants and when you engage with your tenants. Are there opportunities to reach out in new and innovative ways? Social media, QR codes on your website, making sure your website's updated. Now, maybe that new technology is not for you or not your cup of tea, but hey, that old tried and true analog way works just as well. Flyers, notices, you can get out your chisel and hammer in some stone. Whatever it takes to get that message out to them is an opportunity for you to get that message out to them so that they can know and understand what is available to them. The more we can imagine, the more that we can innovate. And so I ask you today, is it one day you're going to do this? Or perhaps today it's going to be day one when you start it? Krista?
Thanks, Scott. And thanks, Pat, for all that great information and how you've been promoting the program to your tenants. So this is the last slide here. So how your residents or tenants will enroll. The Marsh link to sign up is on the BC Not-for-Profit website, which I'll get Tanya to just put into the chat box if you want to click on that now. And it will also be sent as a follow-up through email. But basically your residents are going to either complete one or two applications. The first application is the Marsh application that will be sent to Intact. And that's the application for the $150 or additional earthquake coverage. If residents want to do the monthly payments of $1,250, they will need to fill out another application from Intact for automatic bank withdrawals. And these applications can be emailed, or they can be mailed, or they can be faxed to us. And as soon as we receive receipt of it, our tenants insurance team will issue the policy and it will be sent out to your resident. So it is pretty easy. Does anybody have questions on setting up, like how to set up the program, or is it pretty straightforward to everybody? But yeah, so at this point, we will be concluding the presentation, and we hope that you know, you found value, and for yourself as a society, as well as for your residents. So I don't know if we want to keep the chat box open for a few minutes to see if any last minute questions come, but as I mentioned a few times, we will be sending a follow-up email with all of the information. And yeah, and hopefully everybody, you know, likes what you've had to hear about the program, and you can start promoting it to your residents and, you know, try to help protect them and protect you as a nonprofit business. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
Krista.
Krista, I just wanted to just echo that if there's any question that you would have for myself, please feel free. It's in the slide, and my email's there. I'd be happy to answer any question as best I can. Would look forward to hearing from you if you don't want to talk here in the webinar.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, please. This is the time. If you have any questions that you would like to ask right now here, use the chat box, or if not, their emails are on the chat conversation. And as Scott and Krista mentioned, I will be sending an email with all the information, the recording, and some extra information on how to promote the program with your tenants.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for coming, and thank you for that lovely comment.
Thank you to the presenters.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here, being able to speak today, and I hope you can take away a little something from it.
Thank you, everyone. I will now put the evaluation survey link in the chat. Please fill out and give us your feedback. This is very important for us to keep bringing these type of education sessions to all of our members. I would like to thank Krista, Pat, and Scott for the valuable information that it was shared today, and an excellent presentation and for your time. We also like to thank our attendees for your questions. It was a lot of questions, which is really good. So it was a very interesting content to share with you today. As mentioned, I already sent, I will be sending the link to this recording and visual recording piece to all participants within the next few days. Also, the recording will be hosted on the BCMPHA website at bcmpha.ca/webinars, and I will just throw that link on the chat box.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.